The genesis of Illumine lies in the one problem that we have seen in communities and in organizations and in educational institutions, which is that people need what is called cognitive empowerment. They need to be given the ability to feel empowered in their levels of identity, in the way they look at their roles, in the way they look at the structures of their mind, because that's the only way they are going to be able to deal with a changing world. So that's the basis of our work in India. We've, in the last 10 years or so, reached out to more than 2 million people. We've worked, for example, with India's largest bank, State Bank of India. We've worked with one of the largest private industrial groups. We've worked with large universities. We're working with the school system. So we're working across the board at the corporate level, at the university level, and at the student level. So whatever I'm going to share with you now will really be a product of the experiences that we have. So although some of them will look theoretical, none of what I say is going to be theoretical. It is built in practice. And it's built out of the product of the past decade's work. So with this brief background, let me first start out with my first point to all of you. If we want to build a positive economy, then we need positive people. If you don't have positive people, you're not going to have a positive economy. Now, when I say positive people, how many positive people do we want? Few people? The people in this audience? We're going to need much more. We're going to need thousands, hundreds of thousands of positive people. And our challenge is going to be, how are we going to create those positive peoples at scale across the world? And if we have to create these positive people, if we want to give people this positivity, the question that we must ask is, isn't our educational system, aren't our educational models already in a position to do it? The short answer, I think, is no. Our educational models teach us skills, they give us information, they give us concepts, they give us knowledge, but that doesn't mean that they give us the capacity to adapt ourselves, to transform, to evolve, to grow with new circumstances. In fact, none of us here in this room can truly even begin to imagine what the world will look like 10 years from now. Some of its very basic, simple elements may continue to be what they are, but most of what we do, the job environment, the technological environment, the social environment, everything is going to undergo huge changes. So while we might have skills, while we might have information capacities, the question is that do we have the capacity to evolve, the capacity to transform ourselves and adapt and adopt the new world? Are we going to be in a position to be able to absorb, to embrace the new world? And that's really the topic of my conversation now. So here is my first hypothesis, that really this new society, what we call the positive economy, will be built by people whom I call evolutionary adventurers. Evolutionary adventurers are going to have three qualities. Firstly, they are going to be people who are capable of evolving themselves. They should be in a position to find meaning, find purpose in what they do, be able to find fulfillment in the work that they take up. They need to be able to adapt and think differently as they go along. And at the same time, and perhaps most important, they should be people who can live with integrity in the world around us. The second thing is, but that will not be enough, because just because people evolve individually does not mean that they are going to be able to evolve in a collective context. They need to be able to work along with their collectives, in their families, in their communities where they work in, and how they need to co-evolve with others. Others are going to change, others are going to grow, and these people, and each one of the evolutionary adventures will have to grow with all the people around them. And the third aspect, obviously, is that they will have to be able to build new models, build new institutions, build new mechanisms for working. And all these are the three responsibilities that these evolutionary adventurers will carry within themselves. Now, what is it going to take to build these evolutionary adventurers? How can each one of us in this room become an evolutionary adventurer? How can each one of us in this room be someone who is able to kind of adapt and evolve with the changing world? And the answer probably lies that it is not going to be simple, because it's going to involve completely new ways of looking at ourselves, and which is what I'll quickly walk you through. And clearly it's not going to be skills, and it's not going to be information or information capacities. The first and most important quality that each of us will have to develop will really have to be what I call conscious sense making. It's not enough to look at information. There is just so much information out there. We are flooded with information. So really the skill is not in being able to use Google. The skill is in being able to make sense out of all that stuff that's going on out there. And what kind of sense? Is it going to be some kind of disembodied sense out there, or is it going to be sense to me as an individual? You take, for example, career opportunities. How do young people understand career opportunities, not in terms of saying that, oh, there are 2 million jobs or 50,000 jobs this year, and this is the demand-supply gap. That's okay for economists. But for an individual who is facing the world, who has to build his career, that's not enough. What he or she needs to know is this career making sense to me? Am I going to be able to succeed in that career? And do I understand myself well enough to be able to succeed? Do I know that the job that I take up is going to bring out the best inside me? Is it that the job that I take up is going to really give me the kind of fulfillment that I seek in my life? Now, if for understanding that, I need to understand myself along with understanding the opportunity, which means that sense-making is really not objective, but sense-making is reflexive. It is a double loop. It involves understanding the world, understanding ourselves, then again going back and understanding the world differently based on our new understanding of ourselves. And that's really what is the first skill that you need in order to adapt and transform in this world. The second thing that you need is really trying to change and build new modes of thinking. What do I mean by modes of thinking? You take, for example, one simple skill that people are talking about these days, or one new mode of thinking that people are talking about, which is design thinking. How do I approach any problem with a design mode of mind? How do I look at that problem and say, are there new ways of solving it? How do I, for example, build how do I build the capacity and the mode of thinking so that I can engage deeply with any problem that I'm given? I'm given a new problem. I don't know the answer. I haven't heard of it before, but can I dive deep into it? Can I involve myself with it? Can I find answers? Third thing, for example, a new mode of thought is enlightened self-interest. For long, we know about what it means to operate competitively, what it means to operate out of selfishness. We also understand unselfishness. But what is it? What does it take to live in enlightened self-interest, which means to think win-win in every transaction or in every interaction that we have in our life? Now, this requires a new mode of mind. It requires a new way of thinking. And that's really the second step if we really want to be evolutionary adventurers. But that's not going to be enough, because then there is a third thing that we will need. Yes, we need to transform our modes of mind. Yes, we need to build new modes of thinking, and we need to be able to make sense of the world. But also along with it, how do we deal with challenges? Are we going to deal with challenges by simply saying, oh, here is a challenge, I'm going to find an answer? Sometimes it doesn't work. Everything that you have learned in the past does not help you solve a problem. So your history does not help you deal with the future. And if your history doesn't help you deal with the future, how do I deal with such a problem? I can't go for help. There is nobody out there to help me. So then what I do is I need to depend on myself, and I have to depend on myself through a process of evolution. I have to learn to lift myself within, try to look and build completely new ways of thinking within myself in order to deal with an external challenge. So it's really not enough to be courageous, it's not enough to be brave, it is also important to awaken something much greater in ourselves than we believe we have. And that awakening of something much greater within ourselves, of something that allows us to be more than who we are, that, in a sense, is called evolution, and that's the kind of evolution that we will need, and we need to do that continuously. We need to do that with every challenge that we face. And the fourth and most important point, I think, at the end of is that every one of us will have to relook at who we are. How do we define ourselves? Do I define myself only in terms of my friends, my community? Do I otherwise define myself in terms of my qualifications or my position or the amount of money I have? Or do I define myself in terms of my capabilities, which is to say, oh, I'm good at this, I'm not good at this? Or do I define myself as Italian, European, culturally? Or is there a universal way of defining ourselves? Is there a way of defining ourselves that transcends geographic boundaries, that transcends local constructs, and that allows us to operate at a different level? And then you start trying to look for your universal identities, your identity as a human being. And then you start hooking on to your human potential. So really speaking, if we want to educate our children, if we want each one of us to really get into being evolutionary adventurers in the world that we are talking about, we need to train ourselves and share with people around us an ability to hook on to their universal identities and to be able to thereby unleash or awaken these new possibilities or the infinite possibilities that exist within each one of the individuals within there. You have, just imagine, you have no idea what it would be like in classrooms if teachers really believed that the children in the classroom had infinite possibilities. They just would not rank and grade people in terms of whether they're good or bad. They are not likely to sit down and say that just because you did badly yesterday, you are not capable of doing incredibly tomorrow. If you had a belief in human possibilities, you would transform your understanding as a teacher. Our experience, and now we work with thousands of teachers, millions of students, and I can tell you that this is the central challenge of the classroom of the 21st century. How do you get teachers to believe in their own infinite possibilities, and how to get them to believe in the infinite possibilities of each one of those children out there? And how can each individual here in this room, each one of you in this audience, how can you walk out with the conviction, not with the theory, not with some kind of concept or idea which is out there, but something that you believe in your heart that, yes, I do have infinite possibilities. I can be anyone that I want to be. I can become anyone do I want. You see, it's an altogether different thing. Altogether different thing to think and believe something, comprehend something intellectually. And it's altogether a different thing to know it in your heart. And what we are talking about is, do you know that you have infinite possibilities? And do you act out of that knowledge? Do you act out of that belief? And that is when you will start, and then each one of us will start becoming an evolutionary adventurer. So this is really what we need to accomplish. We need to build an educational system that is going to create positive individuals for a positive economy. And these positive individuals are going to be people who have not just capacities, not just information handling skills, but the capacity to evolve. And the capacity to evolve, the capacity to adapt, evolve, change. And this capacity is, the best part about this capacity is it is teachable, it is learnable, and it is teachable and learnable at scale. It is possible to incorporate all this into our educational models. It is possible for us to convert or to embed this new thinking into our educational system. We just have to awaken ourselves to the idea that we could do it. And now let me share or take you to the next level of this whole conversation. If this has to be done, how is it going to be done? How are you going to implement this? What does it take? What are the challenges? If existing educational models don't work, are there some new educational methods which are possible through which we are going to be able to solve these problems? This might give you some answers. And to answer that, first you need to understand the problem in a deeper respect. Here is the problem we are trying to solve. You see, we want people who can evolve, but we don't want 5 people, 10 people. They already exist in the world. We are not interested in 20 people. We are interested in thousands, hundreds of thousands. My country, India, has 1.28 billion people. If we have 5 million graduates coming out every year, which is approximately the same as the entire EU. And when we have these 5 million graduates coming out, we need at least 5% of our graduating class of the next year or the 2 years from now being evolutionary adventurers, which means that we want 250,000, 300,000 evolutionary adventurers. So we need scale. And yet, in order to become an evolutionary adventurers, we need depth. We can't be talking at the surface level. We can't be talking in mere concepts and ideas. We need to dive deep into human beings and get them to reflect on themselves, which means we need both richness or depth. We need people to be able to climb the ladder, and along with it, we need to be able to reach out and give this to many, many people across communities. How are you going to do it? How are you going to build this kind of a positive economy at scale? And how are you going to get it out of a conference into the lives of millions of people? And if you need to do that, then comes the next question that you need a model for doing it. So here's a model that we have done. Now, how do I know whether this model works? Well, as I told you, over the last 10 years, we've worked with 2 million people across corporations, across universities. We work with the Technological University in Gujarat, 400 colleges in Gujarat. We work with, today, more than 500 schools in India. We also work with some of the largest corporations. So given all these things, given all our experiences, this might be a simple approach for all of you to consider and think about it. The first and most important thing in our journey for getting people to evolve and to build evolutionary capacities is that we need to get them to start aspiring. They must want to evolve. They must want to become more than what they are. They shouldn't be happy with saying, oh, I'm comfortable in my little land, I'm comfortable in my little world, I'm comfortable in everything that is known and familiar to me, and I am desirous of growing up, of growing and becoming more than who I am. And that desire is brought when we give people not ideas, but ideals. You need to give people new visions of who they are. We need to give people pathways to get there. We need to give people identities which say that these are what I call enabling identities. A disabling identity is that I'm somebody who is only good at 3 things. Now that's useful for those 3 things, but it's a disabling identity when there's a 4th thing that I need to learn. Because I know 3 things, but I don't know 4 things. But if I have an identity which says I'm a learner, it is an enabling identity. For example, I'm a contributor. That's an enabling identity because it allows me to grow and learn all the time. So I need identities that people need to carry identities that allow them to expand, that allow them to let go and to adapt new things. So we need this, and we need to give people these new realities which are there. Now, we don't have the time, so I can't give you specific examples in each one to help you go deep into this whole idea. The important thought that I want to leave you with is that we need, first of all, to give people maps. We need to, just like you have geographic maps which say, how do I get from place A to place B? I need a map of how I, as a human being, can get from place A, which is where I am today, to a place B, which is where I want to go tomorrow. And once you start giving people maps, they start getting excited. They say, oh, there is a pathway. It's not some kind of an unknown land where I have to go and I don't know what will happen to me. I have a journey, and it's going to be an exciting, adventurous journey, and I'm going to evolve, and I'm going to be an evolutionary adventurer who's going to take up that journey and make it successful. And this is really the kind of maps that we need to give our young people. That's the first thing that we need. The second thing that we need to do is we need to get people beyond their brains. We need to get people beyond comprehension. Our entire educational model is built on intellectual capabilities. It is built on the mind. While what we really need is not comprehension of concepts, what we need is assimilation. You need to become that. And if you need to become that, and you need to really transform every part of who you are, then it means something else altogether. And what is that something altogether? You need to give people what you can call tools for assimilation. Who does the assimilation? The individual. So you can't teach somebody to assimilate. You can give people something. A very simple example is food. They can keep a beautiful plate of food in front of you. They might even force feed it and put it down your throat, but finally the digestion is yours, right? And if you don't digest it, then, it's not going to make you strong. So if you need these ideals to make you strong, then you need to not just simply understand them. It's not enough, for example, to understand the positive economy. We have to assimilate it. We have to translate it into every being so that we live that in every action that we carry out. And that assimilation is really the challenge of our society. It's not ideas. You go to YouTube today, you go and see TED Talks, you're going to get millions of ideas, maybe 1,000 more ideas than you've got in this workshop or in this conference. You can attend 1,000 conferences if you want, but that's not going to change your life until you take one of those ideas, one TED Talk which you think is inspiring, that it can make you become something else, and you assimilate it. And you digest it, and it'll make you strong. And that's really what we need to give people at scale. That's the kind of assimilation we need for our people. And we need to give them new tools for thinking. You need to give them what I call creative faith. One is the faith that we know of, which says that I believe in something out there. People are too scientific to say that I believe in something out there. But it is sometimes necessary to have faith, because you cannot walk otherwise. So creative faith is a journey where I make small jumps, have faith in something nearby, make a jump, catch hold of it, know it to be true, and then take a bigger jump. So creative faith is a journey of building faith in ourselves and faith in the world around us. We need that. And we need enlightened design. Not design which is just going to solve problems, but design which is win-win. Which is win-win-win. Win for the individual, win for the organization or the companies or whatever, and win for society as a whole. So we need these enlightened designs, and we need to co-create answers. We can't tell people what they have to do, because this is a journey of evolution which people have to undertake themselves. So you really can't sit down on a podium and say, oh, you have to take that journey. It doesn't work. They have to adopt it themselves, which means that you have to co-create the answer with them. And that's really what we mean when we say we need to assimilate these ideas. And that is not going to be enough, because as a system, we need to give role models. We need to give people methods for peer learning. We need to have best practices being harvested from one university to another. For example, a simple exercise that we carried out, which is in Gujarat University, for example, wherein we took 5 colleges as clusters. And we said in one college, if they're carrying out some best practices, how do you share it in the cluster of 4 or 5 colleges? And in no time, the teachers are learning from each other. So peer learning multiplied by best practices, and suddenly you have, a continuous evolution in thinking. And that's not very hard to build, or that is not very hard to put into place in society. And you need measurement, but you don't need grades which tell you how bad you are. You need enabling audits that tell you how to improve. We don't need to tell you that you are here. You need to tell people, how am I going to get there? And that means new measurement models that are going to help people grow. And that's completely different from the kind of measurement, the kind of evaluations that we are talking about in the current economy. And finally, we need these communities of practice, because you are not going to be able to do it alone. You need help. So this is really what you're talking about as the kind of work that we have to do if we really need to scale positive people, or we need to create thousands and millions of positive people all over the world. And here are some quick case studies just to kind of share with you. One is something that we did with the bank, where we gave them a completely new citizenship vision. There is a second one where we worked with rural housewives, where we gave people new identities about them being not just illiterate housewives, but being people who are what in India are called Durga, Lakshmi, Saraswati, which are really goddesses. And they said, you are the protector of your family. You are the prosperity creator of the family. So you give them self-esteem and the ability to find their own answers. And here is another solution which I want to give you a short video around, which is really around what we call the Awakened Citizen Program for school children. In the brief video that I give you, I'll share with you how we are giving millions of kids a new vision of themselves as people who are repositories of infinite possibilities. And these people, once you get those possibilities, it changes your I can attitude, it makes you feel, it allows you to participate differently, it allows you to give you confidence, self-awareness of your potential. Many fruits come out of that one single root, which is a new vision of self. And really, let me quickly walk you through this video. And with that, I will, I'll try to bring my short half-an-hour talk with you to a close. So let me just share that with you. Can I have the video, please? Thank you.
इसमें से हम लोग के अंदर की जो ताकत है वो बाहर निकलती है। ये लोग में क्या अच्छाई है, हम लोग सोचना कि हमारा अंदर एक इन्फिनिट स्ट्रेंथ है।
हम लोग सबके पास रहता है, जो गरीब भी रहने दो या पढ़े लिखे भी रहने दो।
Whose response do you agree with and why? Why do you agree with Samir's response? Because he's thinking about the whole locality and all the खाली अपना महाराष्ट्र मुंबई के बारे में सोचते थे और हम लोग पूरा इंडिया के बारे में
सोचना चाहिए।
इसका फेस्टिवल हम लोग सेलिब्रेट कर सकते हैं, हम लोग इसका खाना भी खा सकते हैं। ये खाना कोई तो बोलता है कि इसका खाना मत खाओ, इसके साथ मत होना, हमारा जो भी रहेगा सब वेस्ट हो जाएगा। अभी ये वहाँ जाने विश्वास ये सब करते हैं, वो सब विश्वास नहीं करें। और मुझे ये बोलना मेरा फेवरेट टॉपिक है बीइंग हीरोइक, कि उसके अंदर मुझे देखकर वो बहुत कॉन्फिडेंस मिला, बहुत गर्ज मिला कि हाँ मैं ये कर सकती हूँ। उसमें
ये डीप एंड डीप जाने का, अंदर की बात देखने का, क्या प्रॉब्लम है, फिर सॉल्यूशन निकालने का, तो अच्छा लगा मेरे को.
Before this session, no, I just done the project without. मैं सोचता था कि सिर्फ बन के दिखा दूँ बस हुआ. After this, no, I have done the project very well. I done the project with perfectly.
If I take less marks in science or anything, I will tell 1 or 2 marks more to house. After this all seeing, in this second unit test, I told full correct marks which all I get.
I came here, all the things I said, be a heroic, be learner, we are having confidence in our mind, we can study all the things, we can't fear for anyone also and anything else.
The kids, after 1 to 5, 6 sessions and all, I could see the change in the class. When I used to go for proxy period, and I used to say, now you learn values down, so let us discuss something about values. And they were so anxious to share about it, okay, or to listen to the stories related to values. So I could see that change. And in fact, if you'll see 7th being the most notorious, got the best class award this year. I think this also played a role in it.
So thank you very much. And I'd also want to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Tali, Ms. Moretti, the organizers, and Ms. Mendez for inviting us here and to give us an opportunity to share some of the work that we are doing with all of you. Thank you.